Welcome to Spaceverse, your portal to cosmic adventures. Up to this point, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration has launched into orbit the James Webb Space Telescope, which is the most advanced telescope that they have ever built. Nobody has ever had as high hopes for an observation station as the James Webb Space Telescope, despite the fact that it has a heavy price tag and extensive delays. During this time, the impressive new telescope has demonstrated its utility by making a startling discovery about the warp bubble, which has the ability to change everything. I was wondering if you could explain what a warp bubble is. Would you be able to tell me what the JWST has discovered? Nevertheless, should you be terrified of anything and everything? Discovering incredible new places is a never-ending process across the cosmos. Exoplanets, galaxies, and black holes are only some of the uncountable objects that we find in the universe. In their near and distant settings, people have a natural curiosity and a desire to learn everything there is to know about the world around them. Everything that is out there is already available, and we can't wait to see it. Do the intelligence levels of our heavenly neighbors match or perhaps surpass our own, or do they have a higher IQ? Is it conceivable to discover an extrasolar planet that houses life on its surface? Because of the vastness of the universe, traveling through space is difficult due to the distance involved. Considering the vastness of space, the red planet appears to be rather close to Earth. In order to go through the perilous atmosphere of deep space and arrive at the new homeworld, volunteers are required to complete a journey that lasts for more than 5 months as part of Elon Musk's colonization scheme. Consider the following scenario. You are interested in traveling to Proxima b, the extrasolar planet that is located the closest to Earth in terms of its distance from our planet. It's still a pipe dream with the technology that we have now. Proxima b, the closest exoplanet to our Sun, is 4.24 light-years away, about 25 trillion miles. While traveling such a distance is impossible, space telescopes allow us to study distant worlds from afar. NASA has long deployed space telescopes, with Hubble being one of the most famous. Positioned in Earth's orbit, it has provided stunning views of the universe. But NASA continues to push boundaries. The James Webb Space Telescope, with 100 times Hubble's power, can peer back 13.5 billion years to the universe's early days. Since light from distant stars takes time to reach us, JWST allows scientists to see the cosmos as it was billions of years ago, revealing the secrets of our universe's past. In order to demonstrate the capabilities of the James Webb Space Telescope, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, has published a catalog for the primary photos that will be used. Among its components are the Carina Nebula, which consists of 2 nebulae and brilliant zones in interstellar space. The distance between Earth and this ethereal cloud is around 7,600 light-years. Within this cloud are several dazzling stars, each of which is several times larger than our Sun. In addition to that, the photographs will portray Stephan's quintet, which is a collection of galaxies that is around 1 million light-years away. One of the most remarkable aspects of this collection of galaxies is that 4 of them are engaged in a gravitational dance with each other, and the forms of the other galaxies are causing the other galaxies to be distorted. In addition to this, we will be able to view breathtaking pictures of the SMACS 0723 galaxy cluster. In this particular cluster of galaxies, the light that originates from objects behind them is amplified and distorted, making them a unique and remarkable phenomenon. As a result of this characteristic, telescopes are able to detect smaller galaxies that are further away. The warp bubble will change everything, yet the findings of the JWST will only be compared to a small number of other discoveries. How about we begin by defining a warp bubble? Considering that this is a complicated subject that requires a substantial amount of mathematical knowledge, we will make do with a simple description. Theoretically, a warp bubble, which is a small region of space that is compressed at the front and extended at the rear, has the potential to push itself and whatever is contained within it forward at speeds faster than the speed of light, all while maintaining its physical unity. Warp bubble travel is more analogous to surfing across a space that is compressed than it is to truly traveling at a speed faster than light. What exactly is the hoopla about warp bubbles? By doing so, they eliminate time dilation, which is a significant barrier to traveling at the speed of light. And for what purpose is this being utilized? Just for a moment, try to picture yourself traveling at a speed that is faster than the current speed of light. The acceleration of everything outside your craft could have made what seemed like a 3-hour flight to a pleasant tropical planet feel like it had been years since you had been on Earth. As a crucial first step toward traveling faster than light within the confines of known physical constraints, it is important to say goodbye to all that you have ever loved. On the other hand, warp bubbles do not experience this issue because the space contained within the bubble does not display any variation. Therefore, when you are inside your warp bubble, an hour passes by in a flash, but everyone else who is outside of it hardly even recognizes that an hour has passed. Viewers of Star Trek are familiar with the concept of warp travel. The warp drive has been a spectacular piece of futuristic technology ever since the first episode of Star Trek, which aired in 1966, and has continued to be so throughout the 13 feature films and 10 television series that comprise the Star Trek universe. Throughout the course of the series, the heroes take their powerful and quick spaceships to several worlds, where they engage in conversation with an extraterrestrial crew about their experiences. As a result of the fact that the plot would be incomprehensible without the torsion engine, it functions as the fundamental hook of the story. The universe is a universe that is strange, incomprehensible, and outrageously huge. When one considers the vast distances that exist throughout the cosmos, it becomes even more evident that it is impossible to go to the next star. Let's have a look at the star Proxima Centauri, which is located the distance of 4.5 light-years away. If you were able to travel at the speed of light, it would take you more than 4.5 years to reach the star. Any alternate routes require additional time since light operates as a kind of universal speed limiter and travels at the speed of light, which is the speed of the universe. According to estimates, it would take almost 8,000 years for the longest space probe that has ever been built to complete the arduous journey into the intergalactic void. Consequently, it is prudent to maintain a close proximity to Earth and the immediate surrounds of it. Considering that they discovered a technique to cut down on travel time, which made it possible for them to travel across great distances, it is only natural that the Star Trek crew did not stay close to Earth. The utilization of warp drive technology by the torsion engine, which is able to accomplish this by juggling both space and time, resulted in a great deal of enjoyment for everyone involved. The idea of a warp drive engine was something that could only be found in science fiction prior to the realization that a scientist had at the tail end of the previous century. How can warp bubbles appear in the real world? What are their characteristics? A star that is 4.25 light-years away from Earth, or approximately 25 trillion miles, is called Proxima Centauri. Take a look at it. Each and every spacecraft that has come before it will be surpassed by the Parker Solar Probe, which will reach a maximum speed of 450,000 miles per hour. The trip from Los Angeles to New York City can be completed in just 20 seconds if you travel at that speed, which is a very rapid rate. Given that speed, however, it will take more than 6,663 years to arrive at Proxima Centauri. Using warp bubbles, it is theoretically conceivable to travel to Alpha Centauri in 1 month, according to the clocks aboard the spaceship and the clocks on board Mission Control. Miguel Alcubierre, a physicist, made a proposal in 1994 that caught the attention of scientists all around the world and caused them to be surprised. Alcubierre watched an episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation, in which gigantic objects bend space and time. This occurred while he was working on his doctoral degree. The consequences of this for his study prompted him to reconsider his view of general relativity, which he had previously held. In the latter part of that year, an article written by Alcubierre was published in Science magazine. Starting with a scrap of paper, he carried out the calculations and laid the framework for the argument. In his work, Alcubierre describes a technique that allows space and time to be compressed in front of a spaceship and stretched back behind it. This technique allows space and time to be compressed. Because of this, the craft is able to travel a substantially shorter distance to its destination while yet remaining safely contained behind what he refers to as a torsion bubble. The warp bubble that Alcubierre created, on the other hand, poses a problem in the field of visualization. In a realistic sense, the construction of the warp engine is a very difficult task. For the purpose of aggressively curving space with normal mass, it is necessary to have exotic matter that possesses negative gravity. By surrounding the spacecraft in a space-time bubble that was flat and then twisting space-time around that bubble, the Alcubierre warp engine would be able to compress distances. The presence of negative mass, a hypothetical type of substance, or a ring with negative energy density is required for a warp drive to be able to function properly. In light of the fact that scientists have never witnessed negative mass, the only other alternative possible is negative energy. The generation of negative energy would require a significant amount of mass in order to achieve the desired effect of creating an imbalance between particles and antiparticles through the use of a warp drive. In the event that an anti-electron and an electron were to arrive in close proximity to the warp drive, for example, an imbalance would take place because the mass would confine one of the particles. The consequence of this mismatch is the presence of negative energy density. The warp drive of Alcubierre would be responsible for the creation of the spacetime bubble by utilizing this negative energy. A warp drive, on the other hand, would require a significant amount of mass in order to generate an adequate amount of negative energy. According to Alcubierre's estimation, a warp drive with a radius of 100 meters would require the mass of the entire universe that can be observed. It appears that this location is off limits. At first glance, it would appear that warp bubbles are nothing more than a theoretical concept that are not applicable in any way. One discovery, on the other hand, that appears to be completely unrelated is revitalizing interest in the concept and has the potential to be a game changer. Those who are enthusiastic about the notion have expressed a fresh sense of optimism over the legitimate development of the warp drive. It is generally accepted that the methods to construct a warp drive that is capable of functioning may have been discovered. Harold White's research has been financed by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency as part of a very special effort. His colleagues at the Texas Eagleworks Laboratory wrote a publication that focused on the potential structure of the energy that is stored in a Casimir cavity. The publication was submitted by him. According to the findings of White and his colleagues, it would appear that Alcubierre's warp engine was dependent on a micro-nanoscale system. It is possible for this system to make predictions regarding the distribution of negative energy density. When White and his colleagues were investigating a theory that had been suggested by Hendrik Casimir, a Dutch physicist, about the distribution of energy among wavelengths, they accidentally carried out a tiny experiment with the intention of proving the theory. It was explained by White that the discovery of a true nano/microstructure that could be fabricated was the result of a comprehensive numerical investigation of the group's one-of-a-kind Casimir cavities. In order for this construction to demonstrate a genuine nanoscale warp bubble, it is anticipated that it will generate a negative vacuum energy density. This is not a simulation, but rather the real thing. Consequently, a warp bubble structure will undoubtedly manifest itself as a consequence of this. Under the assumption that the experiment produced sufficient energy, Alcubierre's warp speed theory was able to be realized. Furthermore, White was aware of Alcubierre's logically sound notion regarding a warp drive that may exceed the speed of light while keeping to established physical principles. White was aware of this suggestion. On the other hand, he was aware of the fact that the concept had been ridiculed due to the fact that it made use of materials that were speculative, impracticable, and required a significant amount of energy. As a result of White's changes, Alcubierre's initial metric was transformed into a canonical form, which resulted in a significant reduction in the amount of unusual materials and energy that were required for the original design. Because of this new idea, the first theoretical design was renamed to the Alcubierre-White warp drive. This name was given to the system in a more general sense. In addition, it provided professionals in the field of science and enthusiasts of science fiction with a ray of optimism that a warp drive might actually become a reality in the forthcoming years. White is of the idea that at some point in the future, they or another researcher will construct and test their very own little warp craft. White cautions that this does not suggest that we are close to building a warp drive that is fully functioning. This is due to the fact that a significant amount of additional research is necessary. In spite of this, there is a glimmer of hope that one day, with the use of a warp bubble reminiscent of Star Trek, humanity would be able to travel around the cosmos. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the cosmos, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Spaceverse, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the latest space discoveries. Until next time, keep looking up because the universe has secrets waiting to be uncovered.